Hello, fellow book lovers. My name is Wes here with Supreme Book Dealer. It is the end of the month of March, and so you know what that means. We are going to wrap up all the books that we've read in the month of March. So before we even do that, let's just do a quick recap. My reading goal for 2024 is 50 books for the year. I think that that's a very attainable goal. In January, I read 5 books. I started the year off so strong, and I have not read 5 books since. In the month of February, we read 4 books, still pretty good. I try to read at least one book a week. So I did that for February. So that goal was completed. The month of March, I ain't gonna hold y'all, I was struggling. So let's just jump into the books that I read for the month of March, and then we'll total everything and see where we're at and see if reading 50 books for 2024 is still an achievable goal. Let's do that. So the first book that I read was Divergent by Veronica Roth. This is a second read for me. I wanted to do a book review of this book. So as you know, I always go back and I read the book. Even if I've read it already, I do not do a book review without first reading the book. I think that's just unethical. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna say that I read something that I didn't do. I always go back. I always read the book. I always reread the book if it's been a very long time. If I read the book like a month ago, I won't reread it again because I think that the plot and everything is still really fresh in my head. But if I didn't read the book in a long time, I'm going back and I'm gonna go read it again. So this was the first book that I read. You know, this is a very popular book. It's about a young girl who she has to pick a faction to live in, and she does pick a faction. To her family's dismay, they are not happy with the faction that she chooses, but then we follow her through navigating through that faction. Really good book. I would definitely recommend it. Look out for the book review. I'm gonna be doing this really soon. That's why I don't want to give too much of it away because I'm saving that for the book review. But pretty good book. Nothing life-changing, nothing too crazy, just a pretty good book. The second book I really thought was dope. So the second book was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. And if you know who Suzanne Collins is, she is the author of the Hunger Games series, The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay. This is the 4th installment of the series, but this one is a prequel that follows President Snow, but it follows him as a kid, not as a kid, like as a teenager, going through school. He becomes a mentor for the 10th Hunger Games, and a lot of stuff happens in this book. This book is really dope. I think it's well written. Not giving too much away, but the thing I love the most about Songbirds is that Suzanne Collins does not make you try to like Coriolanus Snow. You don't like him, you're not going to like him, you're probably going to dislike him more based off of this book. But I think that nothing changes for his character arc. He is still a character that you love to hate, and almost with, I'm not gonna say with no redeeming qualities, but they're few and far between. But Suzanne did a great job with this book. I actually thought it was better than Mockingjay, not better than Catching Fire or The Hunger Games, but I thought it was better than Mockingjay. But that is the second book that I read for the month of March. The third book I read for the month of March is Good Girl, Bad Blood, and this is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is a book that I loved. Probably my favorite book I read this year. So The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is probably the second, but that book was phenomenal. And when I started reading this, I knew it was going to be hard to live up to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I knew that, so I had grace. I didn't hype myself up too much. But with that being said, this is a great book. I think it does a good job building. It's a whole new mystery for our protagonist Pippa to solve. But it still builds off of the last book to a certain degree. I do think that it's not as good as the first, but again, I did not expect it to be, but I thought this was an admirable sequel to an outstanding book. I think that this book was pretty dope. I oftentimes am disappointed by sequels, especially when it's mystery books. And I was disappointed with this book because it wasn't going to be better than A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. With that being said, I still love this book. I thought it was one of the better sequels that I've read. Definitely the best sequel that I've read this year. So we're at 3 books, and 3 books was all I read for the month of March. So I usually, like I said, I have an average of like a book a week. So obviously it took me a little more than a week to read these books. To be honest, it was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It took me about a week and a half to read. Generally it takes me about a week to read, but it took me a little longer for this book. Not because it was boring or not because I didn't like it or I wasn't into it. It was really just school. It was teaching, a lot of other stuff that kind of preoccupied my time, but I still made it through in less than 2 weeks. So that is an accomplishment, and that is something I'm pretty proud of. So once again, I only read 3 books for the month of March. So we definitely declined, went from 5 books to 4 books to 3 books. I guarantee it's not going to continue in this downward trend. I am not going to read 2 books for the month of April. I already have my to read list. I got a couple of good stuff I'm looking forward to, and I'm hyped as hell to start reading. But March just was not my month. Let's recap how many books I've read. So for the first 3 months of the year, I have read a total of 12 books, which means I'm not a math teacher, by the way. I'm an ELA teacher, but I think that means I have 38 books to go. Still early in the year. I have no doubt that I'm going to read 50 books for 2024. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna read more than 50 books, but I think 50 was an admirable number. That being said, my name is Wes with Supreme Book Dealer. Thank you so much for joining me and watching this video and just coming along on this reading journey with me. I truly appreciate your support. If you want to continue to support, you can like this video, you can share the video, you can subscribe to the channel, Supreme Book Dealer, and you can always email me at supremebookdealer@gmail.com if you have any requests, any books you want me to read, anything you want me to review. You can either put it in the comment below or you can email me. And as always, be well, keep reading, and I'm out.